Okay, so we are staying on the subject of climate journalism. Now we're going to focus on the way journalists from all over Europe are covering stories. And on the stage is already our guest and our speaker, Pere Bosch, reporter and anchor TV3 Catalonia, Spain. He's the first before ladies because his flight is in 2 hours. So the stage is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be here and in front of you, and happy also to welcome you all next year in Barcelona, where 3Cat are going to host the 2025 conference. And so we hope to take all the great work that you have done here in Poznan and welcoming you to Barcelona in 12 months' time. I also hope that the situation is going to be better when we meet in Barcelona because of the drought. Actually, this year in 2024, maybe the biggest story going on in Catalonia is the drought. It hasn't been raining like it should be for the last 4 years, and we are in a very big crisis because of this. Before talking to you about how we have covered this subject, I would like to give you a quick facts. These are all official data. This is no big news here. The planet is warming, and the Mediterranean is one of the hotspots of global warming. And this is the temperature anomaly since 1950 in Catalonia. As you can see, the years in red are above temperature, and since 1980, we have only had 2 years with below average temperatures. And the last two, actually, 2023 is not in this chart, but 2022 and 2023 have been the 2 warmest years ever recorded since records started. And the next slide is about rainfall anomaly. Years in green are years with above average rainfall. Years in orange are below average. And 8 of the last 10 years have seen below average rainfall. 2023 is not here too, but it was even harsher than 2023. It was one of the driest years ever recorded. So this has combined into a big drought. It hasn't rained as the average models expected since the summer of 2020. So we are now in the 4th year of drought, and this is the situation in a map of Catalonia. The areas in red are those with the less rainfall, the less below average rainfall. And all this area along the Catalan coast, along the Mediterranean, has had, so that you can understand the gravity of this issue. It's like in the last 4 years, it had been raining normally for 3 years, and it hadn't rained a single drop of water for 1 whole year. This is the situation in all these areas, especially in the north, in the Costa Brava. If you have been on the seaside, it's that area. But it's also in the biggest cities, in Girona, in Barcelona, in Tarragona. So this is the most populated area of Catalonia. It's where the most industry is. It's if we exclude agriculture, which is on the western part of Catalonia, it's where most water is consumed, and it's where we get the least water from rainfall. So this becomes a crisis for the whole country. Or how do we live, and even where do we live? Because 6 out of the 8 million Catalan people live in this red area. It's where all the population pretty much is condensed. So this is a big issue, and this has been a big talking point for the last 4 years. We're now at this point. This is data from yesterday. The dams run by the Catalan government are now at 27% capacity. They were last at around 90% back in 2020, and the situation has actually been a little bit better. It has improved for the last month and a half, because back in February we were at 14%. It was very critical. This current spring is a normal spring, but as you can see, the situation is still critical. So our question after all these facts is, how can we make, or how do we make people care? We think this is an important issue. We know this is a very important issue that is affecting everyone. 8 million people living in Catalonia, in a country that welcomes 18 million tourists every year with a lot of water consumption, a country with a very powerful industrial sector. It amounts to 20% of GDP, with produce cars. We have a lot of exportations all around the world. And where agriculture and livestock amount for 15% of these exports. There's a big agricultural sector. There's a lot of cattle raising. So that was the question. How can we make people care? And we turned to a classic. Be water, my friend, said Bruce Lee. And we were inspired by this quote. What does it mean? It means a lot of things. It means that you have to cover this drop by drop, not pretend to flood people with information. And it means that you need to adapt to the situation. And it means that you need to know your audience and adapt to it, and adapt to their needs and their expectations from this subject. So we believe that this is our role as journalists, and we need to explain something that is very complex and that is so big that at sometimes it can be overwhelming for all of us, because how can you solve drought, something that is, rain is not falling? How do you make rain fall after 4 years of not getting it? So one of the things we have done, this is our digital, our website. We have a vertical here. The sequera is the drought in Catalan, and we put all the information about the drought here. Last year, we had started this effort back in 21 and in 22, but 2023 was the first year where we knew this was a top agenda issue. And we believed that we had to turn this into a top agenda issue. To go back to a little bit of our history as a corporation, I would say that the environmental agenda is in our core DNA. We have, since the 1980s, we had a show devoted to environmental news, and we are members of Covering Climate now since 2019. So we believe that this matters, and that people need to take care of this, and they need to take action. Last year, we produced, in this drop-by-drop scenario, 350 news reports on our news shows about the drought. Reports like this one, this is from this week, where some farmers had to uproot hazel trees because they didn't have enough water to water them and to grow hazelnuts. Other recent headlines that we have put on our website, we have had 222 pieces on our website last year. This was just the beginning of the month, where some of the tougher restrictions implemented in Barcelona and Girona were lifted because of the rains that we have had these last few weeks. This was a story about the plans to build new desalination plants in order to get drinkable water from the sea. Another one, the economical sectors, as I said, has also been largely impacted. And one of the biggest sparkling wine companies in Spain announced that it had to sack some of their employees, it had to cut production, and it had to cut their workforce because of a lack of water. And another one, even the environment is struggling too. Some orchids from southern Catalonia are menaced by some wild animals, but also by drought. So this is one of the ways that we cover this. We try to go drop by drop, but at the same time, we noticed that people sometimes were overwhelmed, as I said, and could get some anxiety about this kind of coverage. So we noticed over time, especially at some point in the spring last year and the beginning of the summer, that when we covered drought and when we showed some news reports about this, audiences were dwindling, and sometimes they were even falling. People were changing to other channels to escape from this reality. Like they were, I know there's a drought. I know the situation is very worrying, but I can't take it anymore. So we decided to maintain this drop by drop, but being more selective with our impacts, and then try to create major impacts too. And that's why we decided last spring to do a special edition of our news show, Telenoticias Comarcas, which is our local news show. It runs daily from 1:50 to 30 p.m. It's 40 minutes long. And on March last year, we devoted a whole edition on the drought, and we sent the presenter of the show, Núria Soler, to the Sau Dam, which has been the most powerful symbol of this drought. It's a dam that got to 1% of its capacity, so all you saw was land, and the town that had been filled with water had resurfaced again. So in video number one, you're going to see what we did last year. You're going to see the presentation that Núria did from the Sau Dam, and also some of the stories that we did in that 40-minute long show regarding solutions and regarding impacts of the drought in various aspects.
La sequera és ja una gran qüestió de país. Fa 2 anys i mig que no plou amb abundància i regularitat i això ens ha deixat aquest panorama desolador. Avui som aquí al Pantà de Sau, sens dubte una de les grans icones d'aquesta sequera i literalment podem tocar al fons, un fet impensable fa no pas tant.
En Víctor forma part d'un grup d'arquitectes que integra l'edifici en l'equilibri ecològic i han participat en la reforma d'aquestes naus que ara són un espai cooperatiu a Sants. Tota la seva teulada recull l'aigua de pluja i la condueix a un dipòsit. Serveix directament per regar, netejar i la cadena del vàter, però l'exemple és testimonial.
Hem passat gairebé de resar els déus perquè plogui a obrir una aixeta i que no sapiguem d'on ve l'aigua.
De fet, de tota l'aigua que es consumeix en una llar normal, només el 5% és aigua per cuinar i beure. La resta, un 15%, se'n va a netejar la casa, un 20% a la rentadora i el rentaplats. Atenció, un 30% a la dutxa i un 30% se'n va cada cop que tirem la cadena del vàter. I aquesta aigua és aigua perfectament neta i potable. És per això que els experts fa temps que diuen que ja fem tard a posar sistemes de reutilització d'aquestes aigües grises a les llars.
Al costat, un camp amb el blat raquític. La planta els hauria d'arribar als genolls, però amb prou feines ha crescut.
Cada dia que passa sense ploure es perd collita. Parlem de la collita que es anirà reduint exponencialment fins a arribar a 0, fins que hi ha puestos que jo penso que no s'arribarà ni a cossetjar.
Quan fem un forat i trobem l'aigua que hi ha aquí, el que estem trobant és l'aigua subterrània, l'aigua de l'aqüífer. Quan estem a prop del mar, com podem veure, a poca profunditat, a mida que ens en anem terra endins, normalment el que tenim és que aquesta aigua la trobem a més profunditat. Sempre quan fa aquest pitido ens indica a quina profunditat està l'aigua, i aquí està a 3 metres amb 40 centímetres des de la superfície del terreny.
I és que a les rieres, i de fet a tot arreu, sovint no hi veiem aigua, però a sota sí que n'hi ha. Els aqüífers són una part fonamental del cicle hidrològic. Se n'extreu aigua per a molts usos i la resta arriba al mar.
Hem volgut fer aquesta connexió des de la serralada del Cadí, a 2.150 metres d'alçada, a tocar de l'estació meteorològica del Cadí Nord. De fet, que hem pogut pujar caminant fins aquí ja et demostra que estem en una temporada anòmala, perquè en altres ocasions hi hauria molt més gruix de neu. Avui l'estació marca que hi ha 24 centímetres de neu, però fa just un any n'hi havia 94. I fa una dècada, el 2013, en aquest mateix punt on ens trobem ara, hi havia 1 metre 13 centímetres de neu.
So that's what we showed last year in that 40-minute long show with over 15 stories covered by our 8 boroughs across Catalonia. That let us be very close to the action, be very specific, be very local, as Anne and Milana have pointed out in their wonderful presentations, and be very close to the people that live in various areas of Catalonia. We can be very specific about what they need, about what they ask for from the governments regarding this drought, what they ask them, and how they ask them to distribute the water that is more and more scarce these last few years. We also try to do this with strong visuals, especially with the presentation, putting our anchor woman inside a dry dam. That we thought was a very powerful image to go outside the studio where the news is going on. And also, we tried to be science-based and solutions-based. We talked to a lot of scientists about what the situation is and what the solutions are. For instance, you saw that the scientist that studies aquifers, what's going on below the rivers, and how can we make a better use of this source of water that you cannot see with your eyes, but is there below the ground. And also solutions-based. You saw a story about how we can improve our household consumption, which is one of the biggest consumptions of water in Catalonia. We wanted to make people aware of what happens every time they flush their toilet, every time they put on the dishwasher, so that you can think, okay, in my house, in my tiny possibilities, what can I do so that my water consumption is less and impacts less the environment? And actually, over the last year, the household consumption of Catalonia has been lowered by 10%. There's a big government propaganda about this, but I think coverage by media has been very powerful in making people be empowered and not feel just overwhelmed and nihilistic and just let it go, but think what they can do what's in their hands to cover this situation and to try to fix it. So we try to be very specific, as I said, very local, and at the same time create a bigger story, create a narrative. That's what we did with all these headlines. And also, we covered this in our digital website with stuff like this. We created a joint project with the Barcelona Supercomputing Center in which we predicted what is the weather going to be like in 2050, not just in the whole world, not just in Europe, not just in the Mediterranean, but in every single town of Catalonia. This is Sant Feliu de Llobregat, which is my hometown, my beautiful town. And as you can see, it's going to be hotter, and this yellow line shows how many tropical nights with over 20 degrees at night are going to happen. We're now at 60, and it's going to reach almost 80 from here to 2015. So climate change with this kind of data is not only a global story, but it's a personal story. This is going to affect me and my family in my hometown. So I might need to refurbish my home to make it more well adapted to the heat waves that are going to come. And I may need to improve my water consumption and how to take care of the amount of rainfall that we get. So we try to focus on stuff like this, on small stories that might have a global appeal that can be a part of a bigger subject. The situation then in February this year got even worse. Last autumn and last winter were exceptionally dry. And what you see here is this area of Barcelona and Girona, especially this most populated area, in the February the 1st, turned to the emergency alert. So this meant a lot of restrictions for all sectors. They were implemented for agriculture, for industry, for household. This happened on February 1st, and we had been working on a special show. We decided to create a second impact after that special news show. We started preparing last November a primetime show that was shown on February. We expected Barcelona to go on emergency, so we started working 2 or 3 months before on a primetime show to make people be aware of this is what's going on. Now you're suffering, whether you're a farmer, whether you are an industry and you have to cut production, whether you have a hotel and you don't know if you're going to be able to fill your swimming pool to welcome tourists next year. We wanted to create a holistic story where we touched on all the subjects, where we went to all areas of Catalonia, where we talked to all economic sectors, where we checked government plans to make governments accountable after the 2008 drought. Have they done their job? And we did a special show which was named Canvi de Cicle, a new cycle. This was shown in February 27, and now you're going to see in video number 2 a bit. It's a 4-minute long video with our presentation. I was one of the anchors of this show, and some of the bits that we did talking to mayors that had a lot of leaks in their water system and lost over 50% of their water. We talked to farmers, we talked to industries, we talked to the tourism sector. That's what was shown on a new cycle.
Aprofitarem el curs d'aquests dos rius per explicar com de profunda és aquesta sequera, fins a quin punt pot limitar el creixement econòmic de Catalunya i també quines són les solucions.
No sabem quan, però sí que tard o d'hora aquesta sequera s'acabarà. Però la ciència fa temps que ens alerta que aquests episodis seran cada vegada més freqüents i intensos.
Hi ha moltes preguntes per respondre. Per exemple, el govern i els ajuntaments han fet els deures des de l'última sequera del 2008. Els ciutadans som conscients d'aquest panorama i actuem en conseqüència?
Avui ens preguntarem si estem preparats per aquest canvi de cicle. L'aigua corre amunt i avall, però per entendre la sequera també ens hem de fixar en els que no es poden moure, els boscos. I avui ho farem a vista d'ocell.
Aquí estem veient uns arbres que han rebut l'impacte de la sequera. En aquest cas estem veient uns pins que aquest hivern s'estan manifestant, amb aquests colors tan vermells, tan carnosos, i que s'estan morint, directament s'estan morint massivament.
Estan a temps de recuperar-se?
No, aquests arbres ja han llançat la tovallola, estem parlant d'uns arbres que ja han mort. Ja han perdut tota la capacitat, les arrels s'han assecat.
Aquí, Berguedà, Ripollès, Garrotxa, no? És el que es coneixia com l'orinal de Catalunya. No? Eren aquestes comarques on plovia i nevava i, per tant, teníem aquestes precipitacions que ara doncs, ja no les tenim.
Sí, això no ho havíem vist mai. Durant tant de temps i amb aquesta intensitat no ho havíem vist mai encara.
Es va tard en aquestes infraestructures per no sobreexplotar més els rius?
Han fet tard perquè, de fet, l'ACA, l'Agència Catalana de l'Aigua, ha tingut un deute de 1.500 milions que, evidentment, s'ha hagut de sanejar i, per tant, no hem pogut invertir. La inversió més barata i que, de moment, des del nostre punt de vista, no s'està posant sobre la taula és la reducció del consum, no? Perquè l'aposta per nova infraestructura de producció d'aigua és cara, té un impacte sobre el medi ambient i encarirà el rebut de l'aigua.
Per exemple, aquella parella que està fent un pícnic, a sobre les estovalles, quants litres d'aigua virtual té?
Doncs mira, pel cap baix tenen uns 25.000 litres d'aigua virtual.
25.000?
Sí, mira, primera.
En què?
L'ordinador s'emporta la primera posició. Més o menys el cost d'un ordinador està entre 20.000 i 25.000 litres d'aigua. I després els aliments que estan consumint. Podem destacar el mango, no? Té un cost virtual en aigua important, més o menys 200 litres per mango.
Hem detectat a l'últim trimestre del 2023 són unes 40 fuites de mitja.
En un municipi petit.
Un municipi petit que el 50% es perd per la xarxa.
50% de l'aigua.
De l'aigua es perd per la xarxa. En aquest carrer, aquí s'han reparat més de 8 fuites els 2 últims anys.
Aquest tram tan petit?
Aquest tram.
Vam creure que era bo fer una eficiència en quant al consum d'aigua i vam reduir el cabdal de la piscina.
I quanta aigua us estalviareu fent-la menys fonda?
Doncs fent-la menys fonda són 300 metres cúbics menys d'aigua que necessitarem.
So that was a bit of an excerpt from this show, a new cycle, where, as you can see, we try to go strong with visuals again. With our presentation was in another dam in the north of Catalonia that has gone very dry. We also detected that some hotels were lowering the capacity of their swimming pools, and we were lucky enough to find one of them just throwing stones in a swimming pool so that they had less water, which can seem like, what are you doing, man? But there is a reason for all this. We also try to be science-based. You could hear 2 meteorologists talking about their own difficulty to understand what's going on. They even said, we don't understand why it is raining so little rain these last few years. We don't understand what's going on, and we fear that the situation has gone out of control and that we are not able to predict what's going on in the near future. And we also interviewed an activist. You heard him talk about the government debt that has not allowed the Catalan Water Agency to implement all the infrastructure that would have been needed to make this drought less and less severe for the country. And at the same time, individual action, as in the previous video, you saw how we can make our water consumption lower by the way we consume and what we buy also influences how much water is consumed. And we also try to put the stress on what we as individuals can do, but not just focus on this. We also want to make governments accountable. If we only focus on individuals, people might turn to news avoidance because of climate anxiety, and we don't want that at all. We want to make people care and want to create agency. So while we talk about individuals, we also want to talk about governments. And for my last video, this is a public poll that was shown 1 month ago in Catalonia by the Catalan Public Polling Institution. They asked people, what is the #1 issue that worries you now in Catalonia? And climate change, and specifically drought, was the #1, 15%. And this is a major change. As you can see, Catalonia and Spain relationship is now dropped to third. It had been first for the last few decades, as you may have known. But now drought is the #1 issue. So this talks directly to those in charge of governments. And that's what we did in the last elections. On May 12th, there were regional elections in the Catalan parliament. And the week before the elections, we hosted the last debate among candidates. And what we did, that's video #4, the first section of the debate, that was an editorial decision, was devoted to drought. So we made all political parties explain their stance on how they wanted to cope with this situation.
Una imatge del pantà de Rialb de Siurana que està al 7%, jo crec que són molt colpidores. I mentre la gent pugui aixecar l'aixeta, dutxar-se, banyar-se o omplir la piscina, el problema de l'aigua la gent no en serà conscient.
L'Ajuntament de l'Espluga de Francolí informa que es mantenen els talls d'aigua diaris en horari de 10 de la nit a 7 del matí.
Què farem? És el tema que no... Que sempre a la barra del bar, a les botigues, passejant, els veïns, al carrer, sempre és el mateix tema, l'aigua. No en tenim. Fregar, posar amb cossis, anem recollint aigua, posar amb garrafes, amb cubos, com ho hem fet sempre, anar a rentar la roba al rentador.
Fa 10 anys que no podem obrir l'aixeta i beure'ns un got d'aigua, ni tan sols omplir-la per fer un caldo. És un dret poder beure aigua de boca o consumir-la.
Tenen la casa plena de garrafes d'aigua que reomplen 3 o 4 cops al mes a Igualada. L'aigua que els ve d'un dels pous que abasteix el poble està contaminada per nitrats.
La Tordera Baixa prima, molt prima. 0,3 metres cúbics per segon és el cabal més baix dels últims anys, amb diferència.
I si trenquem una branca, el que veiem és que el color de la fusta és força fosc, llavors això el que ens indica és que està mort. Aquesta branca almenys.
En aquest toll, molt més buit del que tocaria, hi trobem una granota verda jove, però cap parella criant.
Les espècies que intenten criar o que necessiten per criar hàbitats permanents no ho estan podent fer perquè molts d'aquests s'estan assecant.
It was not that video. This is a video with various news reports that we have created over the last year. And as you can see, it's very close to the action. It's very local in different areas of Catalonia. Now, if we can see the video about the electoral debate.
La primera intervenció per un bloc que hem denominat sequera. I és que avui, justament, aquesta qüestió és de màxima actualitat. Ha entrat molta aigua els últims dies de la pluja als embassaments, però les conques internes encara estan en un 23,78%. I si no plou, en els pròxims mesos les restriccions es podrien tornar a aplicar. És una de les decisions, de fet, que haurà de prendre el pròxim govern, el que surti de les urnes el pròxim diumenge.
Hem vist també unes restriccions molt fortes pel que fa a l'aigua, a la pagesia, a la indústria i no així pel turisme.
Ara hem de decidir si planten blat de moro o no planten blat de moro.
S'han precipitat. Nosaltres pensem que s'han equivocat amb tota aquesta gestió.
Què no s'ha de fer? Segur que no s'ha de fer és gestionar la sequera des de la improvisació.
and on and on and on. And so all 8 political parties have to talk about the drought. In previous parliamentary elections, sadly, climate change was not almost there. It wasn't talked about. And now we forced this. We made this the #1 issue in our electoral debate. So the situation now is there is a new government, or after there's a new parliament at least, and the situation has to be coped because we are still under very harsh drought, even if the situation has improved a little bit. As I told you, the last month and a half, we have had some normal rainfall, and we have had images like this. This is the sources of the Llobregat River back in January when we filmed the primetime show, and these are the images now. We showed these images a couple of weeks ago, but we were very careful with this, because when you see this, you might be tempted to think, okay, it's over. Now we have water again, the drought is over, let's go back to normal. So we gave a lot of context when showing this, because this was news, this was important, but we gave context with science that the drought is still going on and that we need big amounts of rainfall to recover from the situation, and even more. That's why we call the program a new cycle. This drought will eventually be over, but we also know that there will be another drought. So, to cite Bruce Lee again, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do, even though he stole that quote from Goethe. And that's all. As we say every week in one of the most popular shows at TV3, which is called Polonia, for Poland, koniec, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the Polish accent. I think you'll have to catch your flight.
I rehearsed a little bit.
All right. If you have a time, you can join us, and if you have to go, then...
I'm afraid I have to go.
All right. It was